Hello, everybody. I'm serious about this one because I've done the lights. So, reading from the script again, I'm doing another review. The non-RPG review content isn't doing so hot view count-wise on the channel, but I think I'm still going to do them for a couple reasons. Number one, it's talking about the primary inspiration for Lamentations of the Flame Princess. Dungeons & Dragons was born from a love of fantasy. Traveller was born from a love of science fiction. Call of Cthulhu from a love of Lovecraft. Champions from superhero comic books, etc. LOTFP exists because of a love of horror movies and heavy metal music focused through the format of adventure role-playing games. Our first publication, Death Frost Doom, gave a shout out to Sam Raimi and George Romero by name, and there were a number of, I guess you can call them, Easter egg references to heavy metal songs in there. Merciful Fate's Old Oak Hanging Tree is the one that comes immediately to mind. And that's my, sorry, I was chewing on a nail. That's my original edition I'm talking about. I know Zach in his revision flat out name checks a number of heavy metal songs, so that influence is still there even through him. Second thing, Dragon Magazine, back in the day, would run reviews of contemporary fantasy media. And I don't think that was a bad decision. Certainly thought those were more useful than all the articles for games I wasn't playing. So, not only do I think these reviews belong here and are relevant, frankly, I should have been doing these sorts of reviews all along on this channel. So, let's get started. This movie sucks. I mean, it's fucking awful. The Send Help is so visually shit and breaks immersiveness so often and so thoroughly that it is impossible to engage with anything happening performance or story-wise. I spent the whole movie just shouting, "Fuck you, movie!" at my TV screen. It's, I mean, bad effects in movies are bad effects, but not every bad effect is the same level of bad. Back in the day, yeah, I'm gonna get a lot of old man Reggie here in this one, but back in the day, special effects would look like ass, but somebody made those effects with their hands, something that had to work on camera. So even if it didn't quite work and it looked fake, we'd still be able to marvel at real human craftsmanship and maybe have questions like, how'd they do that? And we'd read magazines like Fangoria or look at other sources, behind the scenes featurettes, because finding out how they did that was sometimes more interesting than the movies themselves. These days, we know how they did that. So when something looks bad on screen, there's no further imagination to catch, no further craft to admire. It's just, that looks fake because the people who made this are lazy. And that's it. And yeah, I do think that someone that does their job on a computer is less impressive than someone that makes something with their hands. Film editors used to have to physically cut film and combine bits back together, And I don't blame anyone for using modern methods in that instance, but people who had to do it the old school way were doing a more challenging and more impressive thing than film editors these days. The actual technical aspect of cutting the film was more difficult. That statement's going to be uncontroversial, maybe the only one of this whole thing, right? It's easier to just do the computer stuff than physically cut film. Sorry, I'm just used to anything I say these days nobody agrees with, but I think that one's pretty straightforward. And, it's not like CGI never works. It's not like CGI is always bad. Sometimes it is the only way to really do something. And specifically, I remember The Abyss. I remember Terminator 2. I remember Jurassic Park. And what I thought and how I felt seeing the special effects in those movies for the first time. It was just this novelty of the computer graphics done for the first time, done well, to where it looked real. I believe the water alien in The Abyss, and the morphing robot in Terminator, and the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park. It's funny. I saw Jurassic Park in the theater, and me and my brother were staying at my grandmother's house. I guess it was during the summer. We'd stay up there for summer break sometime. And we convinced her to take us to Jurassic Park. And this woman didn't watch movies. So I can only imagine what this old woman thought, just the dinosaurs on the screen. Anyway, sorry. And with all these movies, Jurassic Park in particular, with the dinosaurs, they used a combination of things. It was CGI and animatronics and so you can still ask, how did they do that at any specific point? Because it wasn't always obvious. And Terminator 2, and especially The Abyss, had an incredible amount of practical effects going on, that those movies were extremely impressive to look at, even if you took out the CGI. I mean, who today would film their movie in a giant water tank and invent new technology to capture sound in there? And I can tell you exactly what year I turned against CGI. It was 1997. Star Wars Special Editions and Mortal Kombat Annihilation. I saw all those in the theater. Fuck you, George Lucas. Fuck you, John Leonetti. All the promise of this new tool, it was very obvious what it was going to be used for. Just going to smear feces all over the screen. That's what CGI was going to be good for. And by the way, I don't use the checkout robots at the grocery store either, even if they're wide open and the lines for live cashiers are long. And at the airport, I don't use the kiosks that spit out your luggage tags. I always go to the desk. And I know that might sound weird for a misanthrope like me to say that, but if there's one thing I hate more than people, it's their robot replacements. And I mean, even when I'm like writing or editing, I go to a local bar, I drink Pepsi Max there, and they charge €4 for a glass of soda at the local bar. If I go downtown, they charge €5 for a glass of soda. It's ridiculous. But I do the writing and the editing on pen and paper. And afterwards, I put it in the computer once the mental work is all done. Back to CGI complaints. I remember when I saw The Departed. I checked right out mentally when I saw the CGI blood splatter. It's a top director, big studio, Oscar-winning movie. I saw it on DVD after the fact, and it looked like shit. Every bit of violence in what's supposed to be a gritty crime movie was like a cartoon in my eyes. I had the same reaction with George Romero's Diary of the Dead. The man had such excellent blood effects for no goddamn money in the 70s, and that's what he was doing then, Jay Bauman of Red Letter Media said that watching The Evil Dead from 1981 is as much an exercise of watching people make The Evil Dead as it is watching The Evil Dead. And when I heard him say that, I was like, yeah, that wasn't how I watched it when I was a kid in the 80s. That certainly has been how I've watched it for decades, though. At this point, it's looking at the movie and knowing the story and knowing, thinking about making the movie more than the movie itself. So he nailed it. And Evil Dead was Sam Raimi. The guy that 45 years later brings us Send Help. Okay, I lost my place. Sorry, yes. That was Sam Raimi, the guy that 45 years later brings us Send Help, which while watching it was an exercise in watching people not make a film. So, in Cannibal Holocaust, they killed some animals for real on camera. They knifed a muskrat, tore a turtle right out of its shell, shot a pig, a few other things. It was on camera, specifically for the movie, and it was for real. Not great morally. You shouldn't do that. But what it did is it got into a viewer's mind that real death was happening in this movie. So by suggestion, by association, when human deaths happen in the movie, which were not real, it still felt real or more real. You think you're seeing something real, or at least you have doubts because it's right next to this other thing. It was the same thing with the Faces of Death series back in the day. They had all sorts of purchased footage with real deaths that had been caught on camera, but then they also shot staged sequences that were fake. But because they're wrapped around by real footage, you accept everything is real. And the effect worked so well for Cannibal Holocaust that director Ruggero Deodato had to, as the story goes, accounts differ, and I can't find anything definitive on this, but as the story goes, the director had to produce the actors in court to prove he hadn't killed them in a snuff film. What is definite is the movie was banned from being screened in several territories because local authorities thought there was real human death on film, and that's not just the bit of the documentary footage that was used in the movie. When people think something is real, they respect it more. That's why it's so damn impressive and why it's a big marketing thing when Tom Cruise or Jackie Chan put their bodies on the line doing their own stunts in their movies. Similarly, Send Help's use of shitty, obvious, and in some cases completely unnecessary CGI makes me doubt anything I'm seeing is ever actually happening. It's like, Lost was filmed in Hawaii. Lord of the Rings, filmed in New Zealand. And yeah, both of those had a lot of movie magic and things, CGI, but they were there, and they did shit there. I don't believe these people in Send Help were ever even on a goddamn beach. So when I see someone's teeth getting knocked out on screen in Send Help, or someone's eye being gouged, right there in frame, on camera with no cuts or edits, and it all looks just fake CG, and not prosthetics or props or anything physical like that, how am I supposed to care? When the plane crash that the whole movie happens because of looks no better than an air crash investigation bit from the National Geographic Channel 15 years ago, or looks no better than fucking Sharknado, how am I supposed to do anything but laugh at and or get pissed at the movie? How am I supposed to feel any tension when people are creeping along a narrow ledge next to a cliff when I don't believe for one single second that there is a cliff or a ledge in the first place, and the movie has primed me to believe that anything that might happen in that situation is going to look like garbage anyway? I swear, people look at the Tower Bridge jump bit in Spice World and they don't realize that was a farce. But it didn't look any less real than the Send Help plane crash. Back when you actually had to make movies with shit in camera, part of the movie magic was how editing the effect sequences was as important as the execution of the effect itself to hide the deficiencies and unrealities as much as possible. The hallmark of a bad movie back in the day wasn't just a bad effect, but the staging and editing of the scenes so the effect wasn't hidden at all, that is right there in your face. Today, well, let's just put the worst fucking CG shots right on screen, uninterrupted in a full screen long shot. I mean, I understand this wasn't a big budget blockbuster, but if you can't make your fake plane crashing into the fake ocean look good, maybe don't put it on screen that way. especially when it's all in a computer anyway. Every single thing is a choice. Nothing in that shot actually exists. So why is it like that then? I mean, we're supposed to be accepting this as live action, real stuff really happening and not animation, right? Right? This is a major studio picture with tens of millions of dollars being put into it. I mean, not an A-list production, but definitely not some indie exploitation flick financed with coupons and hope. And the thing is, when a movie uses miniatures or prosthetics or animatronics or whatever actual real in-camera thing they make for the movie, it's an effort that people go through to make the world of the movie work. I'll repeat myself for emphasis here. Even when the effect doesn't quite work, you still see that it was an effort to get a real thing happening on camera. And all too often, CGI isn't used because that's the best or most convincing way to achieve an effect in a movie. It's because it's the easiest way to do it, avoiding the effort of building something real and physical and having to go through the effort of shooting and timing and editing to make that work in the movie. It's just lazy. I mean, does it save a few bucks? Probably, but Sam Raimi doesn't know how to be inventive within a budget anymore? I mean, watching behind-the-scenes stuff from Drag Me to Hell, Sam Raimi movie from 2010, I think. I should have wrote that in there. You know, they use tubes to spray like real blood, actual liquid, all over people. Alison Lohman ended up swallowing real maggots or mealworms or whatever they were that they sprayed in her face for certain bits. I mean, yeah, there's more modern movie magic in that one, but there was enough stuff really happening that it still evoked a real visceral feeling because real stuff was happening on camera. And that shit matters. Have you seen Little Shop of Horrors? The 1986 one, not the 1961. If you have, you know why I mention it in this context. If you haven't, get some culture, you ignorant fuck. I mean, you're watching this video because you're either interested in movies or for whatever reason interested in my opinion. Either way, go watch 1986 Little Shop of Horrors for some movie-making education. Seriously. And it's good. But I had rewatched that. There's another one I'd watched in the 80s, haven't seen for forever, but I watched it just a few days removed from seeing Send Help. And I only have one question after that combination. What the fuck is movies these days? You know, the local theater chain just introduced a new plan of, you know, pay not much more than the price of a single movie ticket, and it's like a pass to see whatever movies you want for a month. And first I was excited until I looked at what was playing and what was coming, and it's like, I don't want to see any of these things, especially since the cost of, you know, these Blu-rays are essentially the cost of a normal movie ticket anyway. And I guess I could see a bunch of stuff I don't want to watch for that, you know, all-in pricing, but it's like, I'm not interested in the movies. I'm much more interested in the old stuff that I collect when I can. Because new stuff is, there's something about the current cultural context and watching stuff outside of my cultural context that is much more interesting to me. I'm watching a lot of 70s Euro horror lately. Sorry, I went off script on a digression. So, as far as the plot and performances and twists of Send Help, who cares? The movie looks like shit, on purpose as far as I can tell. This wasn't the best they could do. It was just the best that they bothered with. And it's just the most plastic looking thing. It's a big pile of nothing. Fuck them. Fuck the movie. Ugh. Just so frustrating. So frustrating. But it was successful at the box office. Critics and audiences, on average, really liked it. How? Why? Well, I haven't mentioned AI at all in this little rant, and I'm not saying they used AI in Send Help. I didn't look it up, but I in fact hope that they did, because that would mean that a person wasn't the one making it look that bad. But the reason I suspect Send Help was successful is a one-to-one map to how I think AI will play out. The future of AI will come in two steps. The first is already rolling out. Humans are using it to bypass craft. You know, they're like, look at this video I made. I wrote this thing. It's like, no, you didn't. But soon, humans won't be necessary as the prime mover of an AI thing. And I think both the pro and anti-AI factions in Hollywood are being delusional about the whole thing. I mean, first are the actors. Seem to have been given a script about how people need to make their peace with AI and learn how to use it because it's the future and any who resist it are going to get left behind. Scripted tangent. Let me say that the biggest fucking turnoff is listening to someone speak when they've had media training or conflict de-escalation training. It's not a person speaking at this point. It's a procedural response that can always just go fuck right off. My second wife was a medical professional, and when we'd get into an argument, she'd go on autopilot on the de-escalation techniques, and I would find that so insulting. And that's when, whatever the argument was about, I would just get more pissed. I'd have to go nuclear on the de-escalation technique facade before either of us could even start addressing the reasons for the argument in the first place. And you know, when you argue with a woman, how the woman's always right, well, I was right sometimes at least. You know, I wasn't always wrong in these arguments. All that shit, that media training and the de-escalation techniques, of course, have their place, but in a personal disagreement with an intimate partner in your own home is not the time to be, you know, pulling that out. It's really not. Sorry. As far as getting left behind because the world is going one way, it's like, I live in Helsinki. I can go downtown and the central bus and train terminals are just a couple blocks from each other. And from where I live, the airport is a 14-minute ride on the train. So planes and trains and buses are constantly going places without me, all the time, hundreds of them every day. Hell, the station across the street from my apartment here has trains and buses coming and going constantly, 24 hours a day. And I'm not on any of them. Well, okay. Every few days I'm on. But all 99.9% of what's leaving Helsinki or leaving my neighborhood, I'm not on them. And I'm not stressing about them leaving me behind because I'm not wanting to go where they're going. And this whole thing, they get on the train. Remember, the times are nothing to keep up on. Not all change is progress. And as for anti-AI people in Hollywood, the professionals, it's mainly directors from what I've seen, who claim that audiences want real human inspiration and will reject AI on the whole. No, they won't. No, they won't. Of course AI is going to take over, and people will eat it up. Of course this is going to happen. If people actually cared about anything, then the sorts of things that have been most popular for the entirety of the history of mass media, but especially since the mass adoption of the internet, it all would have been completely different. Nobody fucking cares. If you're sitting there saying, I care, you know, it's like, congratulations, you're a freak. I mean, me too, yeah. But let's not pretend we're enlightened. We are just freaks who stress out and prioritize things that most people don't spend a second even considering. They don't care about the craft. They care about the flashing lights in their eyes and the sick beats in their ears, and if a machine can do that for them, then what the fuck is the difference? Whatever is the most superficially pleasing and easily digestible is going to be the most popular stuff. It's the same as it's always been. The only difference is that before, humans were actually doing the mass market stuff. And the people, both the talent and the technical experts behind them making that mainstream stuff, could then use their connections and recognition and talent to give some juice to smaller, more specialized, or more difficult projects. That's going to disappear. Sort of. Humans won't be needed for mass consumption media, movies, TV shows, music, books, if anyone's reading anymore. No matter how much you try to make peace with it, AI will soon be able to, or maybe can already, I don't keep up on it that closely, AI will be able to look at consumption charts, read the charts and trends for the top movies, top music, top everything, and self-prompt with no human involvement, self-prompt to both respond to and direct consumption habits by making new movies or new music. And it'll do it all on its own to respond to and direct consumption habits, not unlike the way social media algorithms already work. And it will have the entire history of human creativity to source from. And there will be no human economic viability for niche tastes either, because that's going to be covered by AI. The machines will notice the 10% of the market here, the 6% there, that don't follow the masses, and it'll figure out what those people like and generate content for them too. Maybe even down to auto-creating content directly for an individual based on whatever can be data scraped about them. The only limit to what they will do will be server space. I mean, there will be places for actual human-made work, but it will have to be a walled-off thing. No create an account and upload product yourself. And it will be considered, at best, obscure boutique shit for weirdos with too much time on their hands. And probably, given enough time, as more people are more accustomed to AI stuff, insisting on human-made stuff is going to be seen as fetishistic. Welcome to the future. Or it could all crash out financially, at this point taking the world economy with it. And it is kind of fucked up that I think that's the best case scenario that can happen right now. I'm very optimistic about the world I live in. Can you tell? So anyway, I think send help. It looks the way it does because the people who made it figures that making it better wouldn't have mattered, wouldn't be worth the effort and cost because the audience doesn't care. And obviously it doesn't. The movie was successful. So if send help from the most influential filmmaker in my life, Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness, or Army of Darkness, I always say, is one of my two favorite movies. If that's an example of actual human creative endeavor in 2026, then fuck it. We deserve to have the machines just wipe us away.